Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Finance Committee. It's October 9th, 12 o'clock. We do have a quorum, and so I'd like to call the meeting to order. Do we have any public comments?
No public comments.
No public comments? Okay, then I'll go ahead and start with item 1 on the agenda. Presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board's financial performance report for the period ending August 31st, 2024.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Mike Perez. I'm the Chief Financial Officer, and I'll be presenting BPUB's fiscal year 2024 financial performance report. And so we'll start off here with an executive summary. Here we have the executive summary, which focuses on 7 categories. Each has their own gauge meter. As mentioned before, red represents poor, yellow average, and green is good. So as far as our flow of funds, we are doing great. Year to date, we've generated $17.85 million to replenish the improvement fund. Debt service coverage is at 2.86 times, which is well above the 1.25 times minimum requirement. The FPEC rate, which is set at 6.273 cents for the month of August, did generate an over-recovery of $13.67 million, which will be used to offset some future market uncertainty. We did see a 20% reduction in August for that rate, and here in September, we saw another 20% reduction down to 5.019 cents per 1,000 kWh. So we're doing good. The COB cash transfer is $1.6 million higher than budget due to some increase in adjusted gross revenue, so great news for the city and for us as well. Personal expenses are in line with budget, while the non-personal expenses are about $6.8 million lower than budget, and then a lot of that is primarily due to timing issues and recording of the invoices as they come in. BPUB's average bill is lower than both the average MOU bill and the average IOU bill for the 1,000 kWh user. As mentioned, the rate for August is at 6.273 cents. So it gives us an average bill for the 1,000 kWh user of $123.80. Like I mentioned earlier, there was another 20% drop in September, and so that brings the average bill down to $111.26. So great news in that front. We are lagging behind on our CIP spending, having spent $31.8 million year to date, which is 34.77% of the fiscal year 2024 approved plan. Here in agenda item number 4, staff will present our capital improvement plan delivery initiatives that would improve project performance. So we'll get more information on this particular area. All key financial metrics are currently in compliance. Moving on, we have the condensed statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. This is in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We compare the current year-to-date actuals with the same period last year. Starting off with operating revenues, $215,683,000. This do represent about a $19 million decrease from last year. Although we did see an increase in base revenues of about 5.7 over last year, we did see a decrease of 15.7 million in the fuel revenues, which is really an offset, right? We see it's in the revenue and the expense. And then we did use $9.5 million of additional rate stabilization funds to pay down the customer's production cost in the month of November and December as it was approved by the board. Moving on, operating expenses were $185,296,000. We did see a decrease of about $8.8 million from last year. And here again, the major difference here is the reduction in the fuel, about $15.7 million. We also saw an increase in personnel costs of about $5.5 million from the implementation of the compensation study. We also saw an increase in depreciation expense of about $2.4 million and a decrease in repairs and maintenance of about $1.4 million. Line 3 operating revenues were $30,386,000. Once we back out the non-operating expenses of $13,322,000, we end up with income before capital contributions of $17,064,000. That big difference that we see on line 4 from last year It's really the $31.3 million in Tenasca Equity Fund distributions that occurred back in May of 2023. Line 6, once we add in capital contributions of $9,329,000, we end up with an increase in net position year-to-date of $26,393,000. Adding this to the net position at the beginning of the fiscal year, we end up with net position at the end of the period of $479,002,000. Here we've got the condensed summary of revenues and expenses. This is based on the flow of funds in accordance with the bond ordinance. Here we compare the year-to-date actuals with the year-to-date budget. So we see operating revenues of $215,866,000. They are about $2.3 million below budget, and here again, this represents both base and fuel revenues. And so we did see an increase in the base revenues of about $9.5 million as compared to budget, while the off-system or the fuel and the off-system sales did decrease of about $11.87 million. Other revenues year to date were $24,778,000. These were $5.1 million over budgeted amounts, and this really represents some additional ancillary services that were generated in the ERCOT market and an increase in interest earnings. Line 3 gross revenues were $240,644,000. Once we back out the fuel and the southmost expenditures of $80,207,000, we end up with an adjusted gross revenues of $160,437,000. This is the basis for the city's 10% cash transfer calculation, so the city is entitled to $16,043,000 off of this adjusted gross revenues. Now we back out other requirements for O&M, non-operating and debt service in the amount of $111,795,000, and also back out the fuel usage of about $5.6 million year to date, and we end up with the balance available after requirements of $43 million. Now we back out the cash transfer to the city. This is net of their COB usage. It was $10,402,000, and we end up with the balance available for PPUB uses of $32,598,000. Those funds were then used to fund our budgeted CIP transfers of $14,749,000, leaving a balance of $17,848,000 to replenish our improvement fund. That concludes my financial performance report. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions? No, looks strong.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 2, presentation discussion by external auditor Burt McCumber Longoria LLP on progress update for BPUB's fiscal year 2024 audit.
Yes, so Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. So last month, BPUB's external auditor Burton McCumber and Longoria presented this committee with their audit plan and timeline for the fiscal year 24 audit. So here with us today is Ben Pena, audit partner, and Jose Diaz, audit manager, with Burton McCumber and Longoria to provide the finance committee with a progress update.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Holman. For the members of the public, my name is Ben Pena with Burton McCumber and Longoria. We are the external auditors for the Brownsville PUB. I am the audit partner in charge of the audit. We're here to give you an update on the status of our audit. As you know, the 9/30 end of year finish line just passed, so we're gathering everything up ready for the audit. We did have 5 auditors in September do some preliminary interim field work to kind of lay down some of the framework, a lot of the testing that's required to be done during the audit, kind of get a head start on our work that's required to be done. Up next would be our sending governance, which includes the members of the board inquiries related to the activities of governance, as well as management inquiries, and we'll also do confirmations once the amounts get finalized. Pending from management side is to close the accounts for 9/30, which will done between now and November the 4th, which is our tentative start field work day. So we'll have auditors here on Monday, November the 4th, to start in earnest the audit. We do have a projected presentation of the final audit in the February Finance Committee and the board board meeting, so that would give us a completion time around mid-January, end of January, so we'll have certainly meet those dates. So if you have any questions, that's all I have for now. Everything's on track and on time, and I think we'll meet those deadlines that we have established in the timeline.
Very good. Questions? Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you for your continued good work. Appreciate it, Ben.
Thank you.
Item number 3, presentation discussion on Town Resaca Watershed Project update.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name's Marie Leal, and I'm the Director of Water Wastewater Engineering and Capital Planning. And today, we're going to give you an update on the Town Resaca Watershed project. And before we cover background information, where is the Town Resaca and its watershed? Town Resaca is basically the area that begins behind, around Central Boulevard, behind the Pizza Hut area, and it meanders all the way down to the St. Joseph Academy area. It goes through the zoo, all of the, down to Old Lincoln Park and the Expressway, and then it ends at close to Los Tomates Bridge. So that is what we refer to as Town Resaca. Now, a little bit of background on the Restore grant that we're working under on this project. Restore was an act that was created in 2012 as the outcome of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in 2010. And this was the Gulf Coast Ecosystem Restoration Council, and it was made up of 5 coastal states only. And participants were the governors of each of those states and also federal agency staff. And it was ruled by the U.S. Treasury, and the funding was to be administered by the TCEQ. At that time, they created 5 buckets originally, and bucket 1 was the direct component for flood protection category, and we qualified under bucket 1 under the coastal flood protection and related infrastructure for this project. So we jumped 4 years from the 2012 to 2016, and we get into the BPUB timeline and background information for the project. So in 2016, BPUB and the City of Brownsville were co-applicants in this initial submittal. At the time, the Assistant City Manager met with the BPUB and the board for this application. The BPUB board approved the resolution for coordination, and the city and the submittal of the application was done on March 14 of 2016. The COB submitted a letter of support on April 11th, 2016, and the initial submittal was for $43 million. And we have background copies of all of the resolution and the letter of support at the end of your package as well. So all of those items happened in 2016. In 2017, TCEQ requests that the project be phased out to cover 4 phases. So it was no longer just a lump sum of $43 million. We broke it out into 4 phases. The next 2 years, from 2018 to 2019, it was a lot of additional requests done by TCEQ, different items, checklist items, environmental benefits, economic growth benefits, and in 2020, we received the grant award notification that this was going to be a reimbursable grant for phase 1 only of the project. In 2022, we received notice to proceed for dredging operations to begin. This was happened in April of 2022, and of course, the Treasury Department is the entity that awards the notice to proceed. In 2023, the restored dredging was completed in November of 2023. This was basically the St. Joseph Peninsula, and this, of course, was done in-house by our Resaca crews. And in 2023, we also moved to begin and complete the design of the construction set of plans. This project has two components. One half of it is the dredging to be done in-house by our Resaca crews, and then the second component, I'll go through some of the items that constitute the second component, which is construction of some infrastructure of the project. So the construction set of plans for that second portion was completed by Half Associates in 2023. So in 2024, we asked for an amendment from the TCEQ for an additional 1.9 million, and an award was given in 2024. And this was a change in, first of all, in the project costs. We had just gotten out of the pandemic. We had bid out this construction component, and the bids came in rather high, and therefore we asked for that additional 1.9 million for funding. And at the time that we asked for this additional funding, we were still doing some dredging prior to them completing it. And so a portion of the 1.9 was to cover approximately 540,000 for salaries and for our Resaca crews. And I'll cover that shortly in a slide as well. So in 2024, currently, we're pending the notice to proceed. And as I stated earlier, that comes from the Treasury Department. So we're waiting the notice to proceed any day now so that we can proceed to the construction aspect of this phase one. And please stop me at any time if you have questions before we get to the end. Okay, so objective
Excuse me,
and
I have a
scope.
question.
Sure.
I think I confused myself a little bit here, but you said that you're waiting for a notice to proceed currently, but then we had asked for some additional funds to pay for some, I thought I heard some dredging work in the amount of over $500,000 that had been ongoing?
No,
Okay.
actually, by the time they gave us the 1.9, we were done with dredging, so we covered it under the BPUB contribution, and I'll go through that
Okay.
shortly. But that is a very good question, because by the time the money came in, it took them about a year for them to grant us this additional money that we had asked for, and so by then, we were completely done with dredging the Resacas.
So the notice to proceed didn't really apply to what PUB was already spending on the dredging? Only on,
There was two notices to proceed,
right,
right? One was given in 2022, but just for in-house dredging.
okay.
And
okay.
that's the one that got completed. The one that we're waiting for now in 2024 is for the second portion, which is the construction of infrastructure.
Okay.
And I'll explain what
Right.
that is.
Thank you.
Sure, yes. Objective and scope: to improve, of course, the community's resiliency against the threat of flooding events. Phase one, here we go into explaining what phase one infrastructure consists of. It consisted of dredging, which was done in-house. That's done and completed, and that's the one that we actually did run out of funds by $440,000. By the time they gave us the additional funding, we had covered it. So they have completed their work under dredging. Drainage infrastructure, and actually in dredging, they estimated the removal of about 53,400 cubic yards were done in dredging. Drainage infrastructure is going to involve a couple of things. One of them is two weirs. We have two weirs at the intersection of Jacaranda and Rio Viejo subdivision. They are extremely old. Wooden boards are the weirs that hold the water levels up. And as we know, that's an area that is very prone to flooding. So the construction portion of it will include the replacement of two new weirs. It will include one gate valve. That gate valve is located in Los Cebanos and Russell Street, so you have an idea. And it's also very old and not operating properly. and in 10 stormwater interceptors. And those are, as their name calls for, they intercept debris that comes in the storm water. It's large manholes. They'll be connected to the existing inlets which flow into the resacas. But the purpose for that is they hold back the debris. And the final portion is the bank improvements. So the bank improvements is basically going to be all of the St. Joe, 5,000 linear feet of the existing property and vegetation that they have. This will remove invasive and replace it with native plants, and of course, stabilize, reslope the embankment and stabilize the embankment. So those are the three components to the Phase 1 portion that we're still pending. We are pending the notice to proceed from the Treasury, and we did bid out the project. We know a contract amount. We know the contractor. We've signed, it came before the board. We approved it, and we're just waiting for the Treasury. On any typical project, we bring a project in front of the board, and then BPUB gives the notice to proceed. In this particular one, we have to wait for the Treasury Department to give us the notice to proceed. The contractor that's going to be doing these improvements is Ferguson Services, and his contract amount is $3.663 million.
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
When you say dredging in-house, I mean, I wasn't aware that does PUB actually have the dredging equipment and the workers to actually do that?
Absolutely. We have, the Resaca Department is approximately 18, 20 personnel. And yes, and you will see some slides.
Okay.
Since 2012, we've had dredging equipment.
You can actually see them outside of Rotary Park right now, or inside of Rotary Park.
Correct.
On their dredge.
Murray, let me jump in and make a couple comments, or I want to ask you for some information. On the, when you talk about dredging, the material that comes out of the Resaca, how's that disposed of?
It goes to the landfill. It's, they have a designated area that belongs to the City of Brownsville landfill.
Is there any purpose of that material?
I believe, I don't know if there's somebody from Resaca Department. I think at one time, I'm not sure if the city is just leaving it alone or they're able to use it. There's Mr. Juan de Gollado will tell us. He runs the department and the equipment on a day-to-day basis. So he'll tell us exactly where it's located.
Good afternoon. My name is Juan de Gollado, the foreman for the operations, the boots on the ground guy. So the sediment gets sent to a property adjacent to the City of Brownsville landfill. The property is a City of Brownsville property. So we spread the material out. We have to till it, disc it, aerate it, dry it out. This eventually will end up in the City of Brownsville landfill to use as cover for their trash. So we have to work it out because it has to have a certain consistency, dryness to it before they apply it. So it's reused for cover for city
Does
landfill.
the city reimburse us for that in any way? Is there any, they charge
sir.
us? Okay. All right, really quick on the bank improvements, just in case people are listening to this. This isn't bank improvements not to be misinterpreted with a retaining wall or seawall or anything like that. The bank improvements that you're talking about are strictly ecological. They're,
That is correct. That is correct. And in this area, one of the reasons why it's only basically being done on the side of St. Joseph's Academy, those 5,000 linear feet, because the opposite side is already, there's already retaining walls and or piers that, from the community. So it was, the area that qualified was only the area that was just plain vegetation on the side of St. Joe.
qualified as per TCEQ or who made that determination?
Yes, at the time of the initial application.
All right, and Marie, just real quick, this company, Ferguson Services, when you have time, provide me with some information on that company. Is that a local company, is that a regional company, or is it a national company?
He is from Olmito, Texas.
Okay, you can hold on for now, but provide me with some
Absolutely, yes.
documentation on that
And
company.
he's a contractor that does a lot of work for BPUB.
Thank you.
Benefits and outcomes, increase storage capacity, again, to minimize flooding, improve water level management control, minimize flows and pollutant loads to the lower Laguna Madre, restore the habitat for native birds and wildlife, improve opportunities for ecotourism. And this was done specifically in combination with the city of Brownsville, because some of the original criteria to be able to qualify or get additional points in the original grant was, they asked for environmental benefits. So that was an additional reason of teaming up with the city of Brownsville. So this is a project timeline for the design and construction and key milestones of the components that I just spoke about. In June of 2023, again, the design was completed for the construction set of plans. In November of last year, our in-house staff completed doing the dredging, and we are currently, in 2024, we are currently waiting for the notice to proceed. The TCQ has given us the green light on every question, on every checklist, and they have uploaded it to the Department of the Treasury. And now we're just waiting for the Department of Treasury to give us the notice to proceed. They have a fully executed contract copy of between BPUB and Ferguson Systems, the contractor. So once they give us the notice to proceed, we do a pre-construction meeting with the contractor, and he'll be able to begin work. And it's anticipated that it'll probably be a full year. So by December 2025, construction should be completed on this project. At this point, from now that they give us a notice to proceed to the end of the project, we run this like a typical engineering, we manage it out of the wastewater, wastewater engineering department, like a regular topic, typical engineering project, you know, with the contractor.
So it's the new fiscal year for the government as well, as of the beginning of this month. Have they given any indication when the notice to proceed might occur, or?
Our contact with the TCQ just says that it literally can be any week, you know.
Okay, so they're just checking boxes on their side
Correct.
and making sure. Okay.
Correct.
And so we kick this off tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have enough personnel to manage this project right now?
Yes, because we also have half associates who is the design team. They're following it through all the way through construction management, as well as myself and engineers, graduate engineers on staff.
Non-award-winning engineers?
sorry?
Non-award-winning engineers like yourself, is that?
They're all award-winning engineers.
Sorry, couldn't resist.
Okay, so we come to the project cost estimates. This is a very busy slide, and I'm going to ask you to, first of all, to focus just on the first line, which is phase 1. Basically, this was the first 4 phases, but technically, phase 2 through 4 are theoretical. Those are for the future. There is no word from TCQ or the Department of Treasury when they will open up these buckets. Currently, they were allocated and they're closed. In the future, if they reopen up these possible grant buckets, we will have to reapply and recompete in order to implement phase 2, phase 3, or phase 4. So these are just for informational purposes of what was turned in originally that constituted the famous $41.7 million original application. Now, if we focus on the first line, which is project phase 1, it just tells you in 2017 what was our original cost and application amount, 3.9 million. And you see the BPB match. Again, they do not require a match, yet they highly encourage that the sponsor contribute. So we basically refer to it as a contribution amount. And so in 2017 numbers, the amount was 4.68. And again, then you get to the 2023, and I already gave you a few of the reasons why this is where we asked for the additional 1.9 million. Post-pandemic, the cost and time that had lapsed, everything was more expensive in every way. And by this time, we had also received the actual bid from the contractor, and they were a lot higher. So in 2023, this is where we updated the request to 6.588. And again, no match is required. However, we are contributing some amount, and we'll go over those briefly. For an updated total, this is the total funded amount by the Treasury Department, 6.588274. And like I said, the rest of the lines, those in the future, if we need to reapply, if there's another opportunity, I'm sure those numbers will change as well. So now we get to the actual project expenditures,
I'm
the
sorry, before you-
columns. Yes, sir.
before you- I was kind of noticing on the previous slide, so the increase in cost wasn't because there was more work or additional work that needed to be done. It was just, was it solely just based off of, just labor and materials just getting more expensive?
That is correct.
Yeah,
And the huge majority of that was not in the in-house dredging.
Yeah.
It was on the components that were bid out. The storm interceptors, actually, the storm interceptors were probably the highest cost item. The weirs were the second highest item, the two weirs, replacement of the two weirs. The valve, that pretty much came in budget, but it was the bank stabilization portion of it, that probably came in within budget, but it was the storm interceptors and the weirs that were a lot higher.
Yeah. It's interesting that, I know it's those 17 numbers, 2000 are old numbers, right? I mean, pre-COVID, and even without COVID, things get more expensive. 40% increase, just by, you bid it out and you delay it and you delay this and that and whatever, and then boom, you're just gonna end up paying more.
Correct.
Right? So
And-
it's
and-
that delay, that time that it takes. I mean, you have a bucket of money and then it's not nearly enough. It's only does half of the project.
Yeah.
40% increase, and I think that's pretty standard. I mean, the comment there is the longer it takes, it's gonna cost you a lot more money. You're gonna save $10 to do something, but it takes you 3 years to do, well, then that budget's totally blown. It's gonna take $14, right, to do. And it's like kind of standard. So, I mean, time, obviously, I mean, I know that there's a process involved. You state and federal, and, you submit it, and they delay, and they take time, and there's red tape, and then you're still waiting right now, in October, but, it's just that delay and that bureaucracy. It's not just what you pay them to do their work, but just in cost of materials, 40% increase. It's very, it's a very
It's very tedious.
inefficient process.
And very, very tedious
Yeah.
questions, and it'll be months, and then they come back, and we think that we're gonna have a green light, and they come back with one more requirement, one more question. And I'm sure our finance department has done this for the last 3-4 years, and they can attest to how tedious
Sure.
it's been, of a process it's been.
Yeah. I
Um,
can see
Well,
that.
this is important. Every time you hear about, more restrictions being added, you know that, we end up paying for it one way or the other. And as somebody who's worked with the federal government, and I can completely appreciate how painful it can be, and all the sunk costs that may not be captured in this, including all of your time, responding to proposals, meeting with people, clarifying comments. Yeah, so, thank you.
And so to answer, the inflation and the additional cost, we have to remember that we asked about $640,000 were to cover dredging, because we had maxed out on 2 of their criteria for the in-house work being done. But nonetheless, that money is actually still in the numbers, and I'll show you that right now, because they took so long that we had already finished the dredging. We did not use it for them. So, on this slide, columns A through H are the qualifying categories under the grant, and you'll be able to see each of the years. It was given the award was granted in 2021, and you can see across in 2021, basically, there was no funds that came in except for $36,000, which was for the contract, for the initial contractual funding. And then you can see in 2022, 23, and 24, you can see each of the columns that we've been invoicing for reimbursement from TCEQ. Then you get to the column that says, it says TCEQ grant funding. You can see those totals each of the years. Then you get to BPUB local contribution. Again, it's not a match, it's a contribution. And these are basically non-qualifying or non-reimbursable expenses. And what are those things? Those are some rentals of certain equipment, and most importantly, like repairs on the Resaca equipment and so forth. Those are non-reimbursables. So we can put them as our local contribution. And you can see the first year, of course, we didn't have any contribution in 21. They really began the work and the reimbursement from 22 to this year, to 24. So you can see the totals, 467,000 total on BPB contributions. And reimbursements received right now is 2.219 million. And then you can see the bottom balance remaining from the original 6.588274 total award. We still have remaining 4.367 million. Due from the government. This is one of our last reimbursable. We do them every month. And you're wondering, why is it so low? It's so low because Resaca dredging was done, and our contractor hasn't begun yet. Again, we have a balance of 4.367. Ferguson's contract is 3.663, so that's where that's going to be paid from.
Marie, let me ask something real quick. The contribution from PUB, do you guys factor that in? Do you all know ahead of time that you're going to be applying local funds, PUB funds? Because those funds are coming from where? They're coming from the ratepayers.
So let me answer a little bit right here. So I think there's a couple of things that Marie has been touching upon right now. And we heard the $1.9 million on dredging. We did the work. We are basically performing the work, and we are at risk of that work not being refunded. We were fortunate that the $1.9 million came back and we got reimbursed, but it could have gone the other way where that money would have been utilized by our expenditures. And I'll go ahead and maybe I missed the question, but that's important to note. And we don't do contract labor where we hire people, then the money stops, and then we fire the people, and then we hire them again or not. They're ongoing operations that we keep everybody employed in that department.
And a couple of more slides, Mr. Rendon, and I'll explain how BPUB has been funding the Resaca department as a whole before the grant, and also non-reimbursables.
That's fine. I'm patient.
Okay, so project summary. Again, we do reimbursements under the Restore grant. We do reimbursements monthly. We've done 31 of them. And the totals, these are all the totals from the previous slides. We have requested 2.2 million for reimbursements. We still have $4.37 million, which of course will be used to cover the contractor, and even have some left over. Why? Because remember, we had asked for $646,000 for dredging, which we didn't use because they were done. However, this is a reimbursable grant, so what we don't use, we won't be asked for reimbursement. But there is room for unforeseen, hopefully not, but unforeseen change orders or so forth from the contractor side. BPUB contribution, again, is basically non-reimbursable expenses, rentals of certain equipment, repairs on equipment, to answer Mr. Rendon, okay, so this one is the historical, from the inception of 2012, historical financials for Resaca. The top half of the slide is spending, and then the bottom half will be revenues, what's coming in, and the top one is what's going out, okay? And again, O&M at the upper left, of course, we have personnel. We have O&M non-personnel. These are their materials and their supplies. And then capital expenditures, this will answer Mr. Villarreal's question. This is their heavy equipment, boats, dewatering system, and so forth. So Resaca system started in 2012. You can see the first 2 years, the capital expenditures were high. That's when, I'm sure they purchased, that's at the time that they purchased the original heavy equipment that we're still operating with. So that the top line, another thing I want to say is that from its inception in 2012, Resaca operations was always funded by the water-based rates. So, Mr. Rendon, it was funded, any expenditures for Resaca was covered by the water-based rates.
The water rate based is a fee that's being collected by the PUB?
In other words, the current fee that we charge for
current
water,
fee that
yeah,
we
to our
charge.
customers. This always put a stress on the water department, because they were carrying, and at times, you can see at the start of the project, 2012, 2013, 14, you know, they had 3 million, 5 million, 2 million totals. There was a time in between, probably from 2017 to 2020, that they basically, they put a cap, in other words, of 800,000 to 1 million max, so that it wouldn't take a larger toll on the water department and on the projects for water department to maintain. So that's the story on the funding on Resaca's before the 2022 cost of service study was done. And then that's when the Resaca fee was initiated in 2022. So that is why you see that line, this second cluster right here of expenses, that's Restore. Also, Restore started coming in things that we started asking for reimbursement. In 2021, very little, just the regular 36,000 that I said were for a contractual amount. We really started asking for reimbursements in 22, 23, and of course, currently 24. The bottom is, again, in June of 2022 was when we implemented $4.50 of the Resaca fee. So this amount right here tells you the $1,024,000 is the amount that came in from the Resaca fee that year in 22, and then subsequently in 23, that's how much total came in 23, 1.4 million. That's after we do our 10% contribution transfer to the city. What came in is of course, a little bit higher, 10% higher. I'm reading you the totals of what we get to keep. The top numbers is what comes in, minus the city contribution. This is what BPUB gets to keep. The numbers in parentheses right here is the expenses covered, the expenses that our Resaca fees are, this is what they're paying for of our Resaca department. So currently, if it doesn't get covered, by the Restore grant, it gets covered by the Resaca fee amounts.
It makes sense. I understand what you're saying now, and I wanted that to be clarified for a future conversation.
Correct. And so this bottom number, the net Resaca fees available, this is as of September 13th, 6.197 million from Resaca fee. Any other questions?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Ask a question, because I wasn't here at the very beginning, in case people are watching this presentation. We're talking about town Resaca, we're talking not all the Resacas in the city of Brownsville, or does that encompass?
No, sir. Actually, I have, there's 3 major Resaca systems in Brownsville. Outside of Brownsville, there's more, of course, in San Benito, Los Fresnos and stuff.
This project
Is only town Resaca is only one. This is only town Resaca, and it's only a portion of town Resaca. And I will show you a slide a little bit ahead. Basically, it's referred to it as the St. Joseph Academy Peninsula. This is phase 1. But town Resaca, I think when you were walking in, town Resaca starts behind Pizza Hut on Central Boulevard, and it can run all the way to Los Tomates.
I only mentioned it because people are calling me and asking me, because they're reading this material, they're keeping up with this. Does this encompass the entire Resaca system? The answer is no, and you were very clear on that.
I also want to point out that the expenditures that were done, that were on different parts of the system, as an example, the zoo was dredged, with some of the internal operation expansions. You also had Ringgold Park and all the other operations there, and some of the other Resaca personnel can say. So let's not confuse that all of this has been on just one section of the Resaca. We're just talking the portion of right now, the grant, that is just the last, $3 million expenditures on that section of the Resaca on there. And right now, we have our dredgers moved to another part of it, which happens to impact our water operations. And the reasons why Brownsville Public Utilities Board is involved is because we have water operations and the conveyance of the water system that we utilize through the Brownsville Public Utilities Board to get to water plant number 2. That could be a whole other separate conversation on the conveyance of water through the Resaca system.
And I will go over 2 more slides that will touch on what Ms. Gilbert just said about the previous Resacas in our system. Quick recap of what we talked about right now, that is funded through the U.S. Treasury. It is focused on town Resaca system. Right now, I just covered phase 1. It's a non-reimbursable amounts are funded basically by the Resaca fee. Dredging has been completed by BPUB crews. The design of the drainage infrastructure has been completed by the consultant, and we have secured through our BPUB procurement process, which was completely and thoroughly checked and approved by TCEQ. We have procured a contractor for this, and the land to be improved on this particular grant did not require fee simple acquisition. And again, I went over that the future phases will require subsequent applications. Under supplemental, basically here, I just wanted to tell you about the 3. We have Town Resaca, Resaca de la Guerra, Resaca de Rancho Viejo. So we just focused on Town Resaca. And all the TR little numbers that you see, those are all the different sections that comprise the 4 phases, okay? 4 phases. This is phase 1. So this is basically, this is St. Joseph's Academy. right here is the location where the two weirs are gonna be. And the bank stabilization, if you wrap around all of this, is 5,500 linear feet of the bank stabilization. The storm interceptors are in the streets, different locations, the streets around there that contribute storm flow into the Resaca. And one of the other things that I know that there's questions and there's some answers there. To answer and to touch base on one final thing on Ms. Gilbert's is that this is funding different sources. It's color-coded, self-funded. BPUB has dredged in the past the Cemetery Resaca, the Zoo, Dean Porter Park, Resaca Boulevard, and of course, Resaca Boulevard and Cemetery. There was some grant funding on that. Resaca Boulevard, I believe that was a larger one, 1.7 million from the U.S. Corps of Engineers, and BPUB contribution was 35% on that. And then the Cemetery Resaca was a smaller grant from the EPA and BCIC. I don't have the amount of that grant. So that is, and all of the attachments are the back, copies of the original letters of support and other information that was turned in. Any final questions? I know it took a lot of the time.
No questions.
Thank you so
Thank you very
much.
much for the presentation. Okay, next item on the agenda, item number 4, presentation and discussion on asset management and CIP delivery overview.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is David Ramirez, and I'm going to go ahead and give you an overview of the asset management and CIP delivery department. I'm going to start with the capital improvement plan delivery part. As we know, the fiscal year 2025 budget was approved. There's $76 million in it. The areas with the most projects in PUB include the electric division with 30 projects and $24 million in it, but in its budget, the water wastewater division with close to 100 projects and $44 million in its budget. Major projects in the plan include the AMI with $10 million, ARPA with 9, and other honorable mentions in the plan include the airport substation with $1.5 million, Waterport transformer $1.5, North Regional Force Main $2 million, and Old Highway 77 with $1 million. These are all amounts that we plan to spend in one fiscal year. They're not the entire amounts for the projects.
I'm sorry, I don't know what AMI and
That's the project that involves installing smart meters for electric and water.
okay, and ARPA is,
ARPA is a grant project to install wastewater improvements in downtown.
okay, for downtown.
Correct.
Yes, so you've seen all the closed roads downtown recently. That's all due to that.
Okay.
All right. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to collaborate with all departments at PUB to help expedite and meet schedules for delivering CAP projects or the CAP plan. And what we're doing is we're starting to have regular meetings with all departments to identify CAP project managers for every single CAP project, discuss CAP project schedules, go over key project delivery milestones, as well as review project performance metrics. As we know as well, we're in the middle of implementing the eBuilder Enterprise project management software. And what this is a cloud-based project management solution that will move the project information where we currently store it in individual department K drives using Windows folders. Everything will now be stored in the programs server. Performance, this software will also facilitate performance insights, will provide facilitate visibility of metrics and KPIs for the management of projects. Centralization, again, all projects will be in one central location, project information, contracts, RFIs, change orders, everything that has to do with the project. Visibility, this software helps visibility to follow status on projects for company-wide at all levels in real time. Integration, this particular software is part of a Trimble company as well. And what this does is that it facilitates integrating this project management software with our existing computer maintenance management software, which is CityWorks, because CityWorks is also owned by Trimble, so that'll expedite the integration. Users, the users for this e-builders software will include, in addition to BPUB employees, project managers, it will include outside vendors and contractors with different accessibility to screens and data as needed. And finally, the workload. This project or this software ranks different projects based on their size or complexity, assigning ratings per project manager to see how overloaded they are with projects. And so what this does is that it would allow the different division managers reassign projects to project managers that might not be overloaded and vice versa to expedite and assure delivery of CAP projects. Other things we're doing internal workshops with project managers and trainings. We're holding discussions of common project issues that could typically hold back a project schedule. We go over contract parts, front-end documents, technical documents, change orders, requests for information, etc. We discuss construction contract legal issues that may arise from time to time, like means and methods, topics, contract time, liquidated damages, etc. We go over the different project procurement methods to hopefully select the most efficient one. We discussed the sign bid bill, which is our traditional delivery method, as well as RFP and RFQ. As well as we go over construction QA/QC topics to ensure the quality of delivery of projects. Typically go over, depending on the project, electrical load testing or soil density testing, construction strength reports, etc. Now let me go over asset management. I got a couple of slides on asset management. So what is asset management? Asset management is a system that aims to improve the maintenance strategies for equipment and infrastructure to extend their life while ensuring the maximum performance. The Institute of Asset Management is the international nonprofit organization that standardizes the organizational asset management practices. We're currently carrying out activities that address the guidelines of the Institute. For example, we're developing company-wide policies that address asset management, including compliance with ISO 55000. We're developing different procedures, for instance, on how to collect data from assets in a format that is usable for different studies. We're looking for opportunities in the different maintenance departments on how to improve their maintenance strategies, as well as conducting different trainings for our mechanics, electricians, and engineers. We recently conducted trainings for pump selection and operation and maintenance. And finally, asset performance and condition monitoring. This ties to leveraging additional sensors to follow the condition of equipment. For instance, one of our critical lift stations, we recently included a vibration and temperature sensor technology in it to assist our mechanics follow the maintenance of it in a more efficient manner. We're also, like I mentioned, leveraging new technology for increased asset reliability for better return on investment. Emergent AI technologies present a potential benefit to utilize big data, such as the data that we'll now have with the AMI smart meters, and coupling it with the other network data in the electric distribution, for example, from relays and substations to help learn from past outage incidents and predict future outages, giving our crews ample time to act preemptively. The same with the water side, using the smart meter data and other system information, coupling it with AI has the potential to help help us pinpoint water system leaks with a lot more accuracy to help in our water conservation efforts. Other things we're doing, we're assisting in inventorying key asset classes in the electric distribution system to help, again, with our electric planning operations run their reliability simulations and studies to reduce the number of people that's affected during a power outage. We're doing things like optimizing the wastewater system. Currently, the lift stations area spans about $1 million in operation expenses on a yearly basis, as well as it has a $20 million capital 5-year plan to address mostly issues that arise from corrosion. As we know, the wastewater collection system has a lot of corrosion, a lot of hydrogen sulfide, which is the gas that generates from sewage that causes a lot of smell. And optimizing, we're looking into ways to optimize the controls of the close to 200 lift stations that we have in our system to make the way the sewage flows more efficient and let it stand less time in the system, reducing the travel time from point A to the plant. And finally, we're also looking at optimizing asset mapping systems for CIP planning, working with our GIS team to add additional attributes to our data that we have for our water and sewer pipelines to help generate more effective maps that can then be used to, together with our wastewater planning team, generate CAP plans. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Questions?
None for me.
I just have a couple of quick comments. David, how long have you been working with PUB in this capacity?
Well, in this capacity, about a year. I will be with the company for about 21 years.
21 years. Do y'all, have y'all conducted presentations like this in the past, similar to this?
Not to the committee or the board.
Okay. I mean, I like what y'all are doing. I know y'all, we've talked about these topics before as a board. Well, it's good that y'all are doing this and trying to stay ahead of the curve. But okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks. Okay. Next item, presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation on current bank depository agreement with Wells Fargo Bank.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Jorge Santillan, Finance Manager. Let me go over a background on this item. At a Finance Committee meeting back in August 7, 2024, the Finance Committee recommended to allow the current depository service agreement with Wells Fargo to expire as scheduled on May 31st, 2025. Then at the BPUB board meeting on August 12, 2024, upon staff recommendation, BPUB board approved to allow the current depository service agreement to continue until its expiration on May 31st, 2025. Staff also informed the board that the RFP process would be initiated in November 2024. Today, we're requesting the Finance Committee authorization to proceed with the RFP process in anticipation of the expiration of the current service agreement with Wells Fargo and not exercise the one-year renewal option. And what we intend to accomplish is that once we if approved, and once we receive the proposals, hopefully we can get better terms, either better perhaps interest rates or reduction in cost and perhaps enhanced services or products. The RFP, if approved, the RFP process timeline of events would start October 2024 by releasing the request for proposals. In January 25, the proposals received are evaluated. February 25, present results to the Finance Committee and obtain the committee's recommendation. March 25, BPUB board considers to award the service agreement. April and May 2025, that would be the implementation period. June 1st, 2025, the new bank depository service agreement begins. And then there would be a transition period between 3 and 4 months after the new agreement begins if the selected bank is other than Wells Fargo Bank. Again, we're requesting to proceed with the RFP. And any other questions?
Okay. Any questions? Is there a motion to, I guess, make a recommendation?
Well, I mean, we already said okay during the last board meeting, so why would we need to vote again?
At the meeting was to allow the contract, don't cancel the contract, basically allow it to expire, and then that was the main, how we approached it and how it was approved.
Okay.
This is for the RFP process to go out instead of renewing the option, so that's,
But we're only making, I mean,
We-
we would
we-
vote on making a recommendation to the full board.
or
correct?
to proceed with the RFP. And so in other words, we're gonna release, request the proposals, evaluate them. You'll come back and see the evaluations and the
Yes.
results at a later time.
Yeah, but I just want to clarify, we're just making a recommendation to the board, though. The board's going to vote whether to, is that correct, or no?
I believe at the last board meeting, it was agreed, I guess, it wasn't consent, but on the summary of the item, it was agreed that we would initiate the RFP process in November. We're just wanting to initiate it a month earlier. Get it started now in October. The RFP process, or the RFP itself has already been drafted, very
Right.
comprehensive, and we're ready to go.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Was there a question?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Pull the trigger.
Is there a recommendation, I guess, to start the RFP process in October?
I mean,
It'll come before us on Monday.
yeah, so do we vote on anything, or do we just say, go?
This is an advisory committee. I think there's a little bit of a confusion as to what exactly is being requested for approval. I think the update, it's an update to the committee. Is board action required at the next board meeting? If so, I think they're asking for the recommendation, the favorable recommendation to just proceed.
On the agenda, it says discussion possible recommendation, so I mean.
Correct, because
so in
that's
order for us to
accurate.
recommend
That's
it to the
within.
board, I think we need to vote.
Okay,
Is there-
so
is there
I
a
move
motion
to recommend this.
There's a first, is there a second? Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Recommendation passes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then we have another, our final item here in their open meeting. Presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation on open COB invoices and projected reduction of cash transfer.
Mr. Chair and committee members, again, a background on this item. The request, background in the request process for services by the City of Brownsville. The BPUB and the city, through their respective technical committee staff, have crafted, reviewed, and instituted a process to advance city projects while deferring payment processing per bond ordinance provisions. Invoices issued by the city, to the city by PUB can be paid in one of three ways. First, number one, the city can submit payment via check or ACH to BPUB in quarterly batches for the previous quarter's outstanding invoices, or the city can request a waiver from the full BPUB Board of Directors at a scheduled meeting. And third, BPUB will reduce the cash transfer in quarterly batches for the previous quarter's outstanding invoices. Beginning with the payment in January for the first quarter of fiscal year 2025, BPUB will deduct the amount of outstanding invoices from the cash transfer. And these are the current 10 open invoices projected to be deducted from the FY 2025 first quarter cash transfer. This cash transfer will be processed on January the 15th, 2025. The total amount of these 10 invoices is $256,417.60.
Okay. Any question?
So as much as I like the idea of Mike going over there and breaking some knuckles, which, yeah, still on the table, have we been in communication with the city about this? Are they, I mean.
They're fully aware. We're currently holding technical monthly meetings with the city on a monthly basis. And so we make them aware that
Okay, so they
the process
suggest
that
would
they agreed to.
prefer- They would prefer withholding from the cash transfer? That was their preference, or?
They agreed.
Okay.
There's there's
Be
three.
careful, Mike.
I know. They agreed. There's three ways of collecting the funds, right? They can either pay us cash transfer. I mean, not transfer. ACH wire. Second, they can come to the board at a regularly scheduled meeting and request a waiver. That'll be up to the board. And third, if those first two don't happen, then on that first cash transfer on January 15, 2025, we will deduct from, we'll deduct it from there.
Yeah, they understand that.
Yeah. Now, we're scheduled to submit in accordance with the procedures, we do submit to them on a quarterly basis, a list of all the outstanding invoices. And so this list here will be going out the 15th of this month, as of September 30th. And so on there, we will let them know, I advise them again, this is the outstanding balance, this is the process that you all agreed to. And so if we don't receive payment, or if you all don't get on our agenda and request a waiver, we will be deducting it. So we're just gonna reiterate that to them.
And it's important, Mike, that they understand it clearly, so as they prepare for their budgets for the future, that this,
Yeah, and that's the reason that the procedures were set up in place, so that we deferred collection of this until 2025, so it wouldn't affect their fiscal year 24
Right.
budget. So they had an opportunity to include in their fiscal year budget any expenses that,
Have we ever done this before?
excuse me?
Has PUB ever done this before?
No.
First time? Okay. Any other questions? No. Any other questions? Yeah.
I'm good, thank
Does- Do we want to make is this another recommendation?
I think so.
I'll move to go forward with the recommendation. I guess I can't say approve. the
Yeah, it's
recommendation.
recommended to the board.
Yeah, I move to recommend this to the board.
And I'll second that motion to recommend it to the board.
So there is a recommendation to the board to approve this action item, or this item, agenda item. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Recommendation passes. And then we have one item for our closed meeting. It is presentation, discussion on information upon pricing of purchased power generation and fuel and their impact upon the fuel purchase, energy, and marketing change. Okay, is there a motion to go into a closed meeting?
I move to go into close.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
The time is 1:12.
Do you have any documentation of the lit pole agreement and anything that the emails, because most of these projects, we haven't done this, but we also haven't, this first time that the city is requesting as much as, that this is everything covered these expenses. Form or anything like that? Because I think we need to send to the committee, just as a follow-up, maybe send them an email on the lit pole attachment. And this was something that was discussed with the mayor, the city manager, Paul, and Will, that how we were gonna be proceeding, I think, for this. I just don't remember at what meeting it was discussed, that, because this was gonna be,
Okay, it is 1:23, and we are reconvening our open meeting. There was no action taken in our closed meeting. Item number 8, discussion and/or request for future agenda items. Any? Okay, if there's nothing there, then I'd entertain a motion to close this, to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.